Imagine you are walking home late at night. You're cutting through this dark, totally empty field.
Oh, that's never a good setup.
Right. The wind is howling, the shadows are stretching everywhere, and suddenly out of the corner of your eye, you see it.
A terrifying ghost.
Exactly. A terrifying ghost just towering over you, waving its arms wildly. Your heart immediately hammers against your ribs. Your palms start sweating. I mean, your fight or flight response just kicks into overdrive.
You're completely terrifying.
Totally terrified. But then you take a brave step closer, the moonlight shifts just a fraction, and you realize it's not a ghost at all.
Not at all.
It's just dried Suzuki grass, Japanese pampas grass blowing in the wind.
It's this sudden visceral shift. Your body is still pumping adrenaline, but your mind has completely neutralized the threat simply by seeing it for what it actually is.
It's literally just grass. And today, on this custom-tailored deep dive, we are going to figure out how many of the monsters currently keeping you up at night are actually just grass.
There are quite a few, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. We're on a mission to cut through the modern epidemic of information overload, the chronic stress, and that endless ambient anxiety so many of us feel.
And to do that, we are leaning into the 450-year-old practical wisdom of Shunmyo Masuno. He's a Zen Buddhist monk, an acclaimed garden designer, and a university professor.
A pretty incredible resume.
Really incredible. And what Masuno points out through that image of the ghost in the field is that the vast majority of our anxieties, our worries, and our doubts are just dried grasses.
They're not real.
Right. They're delusions, assumptions, and imaginary fears that we project onto the world around us. And if we look at the psychology there, Zen is essentially functioning as an early form of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's telling us that the external event isn't actually causing the anxiety. It's our interpretation of the event. The knowledge we're going to explore today is designed to help you step back, look objectively at the things tying you into knots, and realize you're often just, fearing shadows.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because I have to push back right away on behalf of the listener here.
Go for it.
When you are lying awake at 3 a.m., completely stressed about a massive work presentation or agonizing over a tense conversation you had with a friend, it does not feel like dried grass.
No, it feels very real.
It feels like a very dangerous monster in the room with you. Our modern brains are wired to treat a bad performance review the exact same way our ancestors treated a saber-toothed tiger.
Yes, the physiological response is identical.
So how do we actually stop seeing these ghosts in the first place?
Well, to stop seeing the ghosts, we first have to dismantle the machinery in our minds that manufactures them.
Okay, the factory.
Exactly. And according to Zen teachings, the primary factory for our delusions is the act of comparison. There is a fundamental Zen phrase, a Zengo, that simply says, "Delude not thyself."
Now, when we hear the word delusion, we usually think of a clinical hallucination, like seeing things that aren't there. But Masuno is talking about something much more common, isn't he?
He is talking about the binaries we instinctively create. I mean, our brains are essentially sorting machines.
We just love to put things in boxes.
We have to. To make sense of a really complex world, we constantly categorize everything into opposites. Winning and losing, rich and poor, beautiful and ugly, success and failure.
Right.
The delusion begins the exact moment we establish those binaries because we immediately start looking sideways. We compare our own messy reality to those rigid categories.
Ah, I see. You look at a peer and think, oh, they are in the winning category, which must mean I'm in the losing category.
Precisely. That single act of comparison breeds envy, resentment, or just intense self-condemnation. It slowly consumes your mental bandwidth.
So what's the alternative?
Zen offers a counter-concept. Once enlightened, there are no favorites.
Okay, but let's bring that into the real world. The world you and I and the listener actually live in. We exist in a hyper-competitive, performance-based society where we are literally ranked against our peers.
We certainly are.
We have KPIs, performance reviews, social media metrics. If my coworker gets a major promotion and I don't, how am I supposed to not feel like I just landed in the loser column? How do you apply no favorites to a corporate ladder?
You apply it by fundamentally changing how you interpret the environmental conditions around you. In Zen, they conceptualize this through the 8 winds.
The 8 winds.
Yes. Throughout your life, different winds will blow. There are favorable winds like prosperity, honor, and praise.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. And there are adverse winds like decline, disgrace, and ridicule. The teaching is, even when the 8 winds blow, do not be moved. A promotion is a favorable wind. Being passed over is an adverse wind. but ultimately it is just weather.
Wow. So you're saying we shouldn't internalize the weather as a reflection of our inherent worth?
Exactly that. You simply observe the wind, you check inward to see if you did your absolute best, and if you did, you find your satisfaction in your own honest effort.
Totally decoupled from the external outcome.
Yes, completely decoupled. You stop letting the wind dictate your structural integrity.
There's this incredible story from the source material that perfectly illustrates this. It features Fudabayama. For those who don't know, he was this legendary sumo wrestler who held an all-time record of 69 consecutive wins.
Just an unbelievable historic streak.
Insane. But when he finally lost his 70th bout, his reaction was so fascinating. He didn't throw a tantrum, he didn't blame the referees or complain about the other wrestlers' technique.
No, he did something very unusual.
He sent a telegram to his teacher that referenced an old Chinese fable about the fighting rooster.
Right, the fable of the rooster that is trained to be completely impervious to the aggressive crowing of other birds.
Unbothered.
Completely unbothered. The trainer works with the rooster until it becomes so focused, so internally calm, that it appears as though it is carved out of wood. The other roosters see this wooden posture and they simply run away.
And Fudabayama sent that telegram to lament that he had not yet reached that state.
Even after 69 wins.
Right. Even as the greatest champion of his era, he realized his mind was still swayed by the adverse wind of that single defeat. He realized his ego was still reacting to the outcome. He wanted to be the wooden rooster, just completely immune to outside noise.
It's a profound level of self-awareness.
But if the goal is to stop looking sideways at what everyone else is doing, where are we supposed to direct our focus?
The Zen instruction is to look strictly at the now. We have to stop dwelling in the past or obsessing over the future.
Okay, the power of now, basically.
Exactly. There is
Okay.
Buddhist concept of dwelling in the three worlds. We exist in the continuum between the past, present, and future. But functionally, the past is already dead and the future is entirely unborn.
Wow, it's heavy.
It is, but it's liberating. The only realm where you have any actual agency is the present. The practice is to dwell in the breath. You live as conscientiously and intentionally as you can in the exact fraction of a second you are currently drawing breath.
Masuno illustrates this focus on the present with a really beautiful three-line poem about a chipped bowl.
Yes, it's wonderful.
The poem goes, even the chipped bowl was once a cherry tree on Mount Yoshino. And Mount Yoshino is famous in Japan for these magnificent, breathtaking cherry blossoms.
Beautiful imagery.
But as I was reading this, I realized how easily we get this backward in our own lives. Think about people who constantly bring up their past glories. The person who always reminds you they closed a massive deal 10 years ago, or they were the star quarterback in high school.
We all know someone like that.
Right. They are essentially mourning the magnificent cherry blossoms they used to be.
And in doing so, they are completely missing the value of their current state. The point of the poem isn't just about accepting that things age or break. It's about recognizing utility and presence.
Yes. A beautiful cherry blossom on a tree is lovely to look at, but it cannot hold a serving of hot, nourishing soup.
But a chipped bowl can.
Exactly. If you are constantly pointing backward at the tree, you are blinding yourself to the fact that you have immediate practical value right now. The goal isn't to be a perfect blossom in the past. The goal is to be the absolute best, most useful chipped bowl you can be today.
That brings up a critical tension, though. Focusing on the utility of the present moment makes total sense when we are talking about letting go of past glories or past mistakes.
Right.
But what about the future? We live in an era where we are told we must constantly consume information to make responsible choices for our future careers, our health, our financial portfolios.
Oh man, this is a huge trap for the listener. We feel like if we just do enough research, we can guarantee a perfect outcome.
It's exhausting.
It really is. You decide to buy a new vitamin supplement, and instead of just buying one, you spend 3 hours reading 500 conflicting reviews, cross-referencing medical blogs.
And suddenly you're terrified that you're going to accidentally poison yourself.
Exactly. It's absolute information paralysis.
Which is a very modern form of delusion. We operate under the assumption that more data inherently equals better decisions. We think information is a safety blanket.
But it's not.
Not always.
Hmm?
The Zen perspective argues that gathering endless data actually inhibits decision-making. It manufactures doubt and anxiety where none previously existed. What we call due diligence today, a Zen monk might call manufacturing ghosts.
So how do we function then? We can't just stumble blindly through life without looking at any data. Masuno says we need to question our hearts first and narrow our options.
Yes.
But let's be practical. How does a listener actually question their heart when they are staring down an overwhelming life decision?
It really comes down to defining your core values before you open the browser window.
Before you even start researching.
Exactly. If you let the data define your parameters, you will drown in options. Questioning your heart means asking yourself, what is my actual underlying goal here? What are the 3 non-negotiable things I need out of this career move or this purchase or this habit?
You set the boundaries first.
Right. You become the protagonist of your own life. A protagonist isn't a passive leaf blown around by every stray breeze of data. You pick your specific path based on your internal values, and then you only gather the specific, limited information required to take the next physical step on that path.
You aggressively filter out everything else's irrelevant noise.
Yes.
Okay, so we stop comparing ourselves to others, we stop mourning the cherry blossoms, and we filter our information intake to protect our present focus.
Sounds like a solid plan.
It does, but let's be radically honest for a second. Sometimes the present moment is objectively terrible.
It is. Things go wrong.
People get sick, financial crises hit. How do we stop our emotions from dragging us under when the now is genuinely painful?
This requires an incredibly profound level of acceptance regarding what we truly control. Consider the autonomic nervous system. You cannot consciously tell your heart to stop beating or your digestion to speed up.
Right, it functions entirely on its own.
Illness and external crises are often exactly the same. They are realities that occur outside of our control. The Japanese word for sick is bayoki. The characters literally translate to, the spirit is pained.
Meaning the physical illness is only part of the equation?
Yes, a very important part. But there is a crucial difference between primary pain and secondary suffering.
What's the difference?
Well, the illness or the job loss is the primary pain. It hurts, but it is just a fact of the present moment. The secondary suffering happens when we curse our fate.
When we say, why me? This isn't fair. I did everything right.
Exactly. When we do that, we are adding a massive layer of psychological resistance on top of the physical reality. Pain multiplied by resistance equals suffering. By fighting a reality we cannot change, we simply cause our spirit to falter, making the actual lived experience exponentially gloomier.
It sounds a bit like giving up, though. When you get hit with a massive wave of anger or despair because something unfair happened, how do you manage that intensity without just resigning yourself to misery?
You don't resign yourself, but you also don't rigidly resist. This is the Zen concept of mushin, which translates to no-mindedness. Masuno uses a brilliant structural analogy here.
I love his analogies.
They're great. Imagine a thick, rigid wooden stake driven deep into the earth. When a massive hurricane-force gale comes, that stake will stubbornly try to hold its ground. It fights the wind. But eventually, the sheer force of the wind will snap it in half.
It breaks.
Right. Now consider bamboo. Bamboo survives the exact same storm because it is completely supple. It doesn't fight the wind, it bends completely with it, giving itself over to the reality of the storm. And the moment the wind stops, the bamboo stands straight back up, unbroken.
Like the weather we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Or think of a cloud in the sky. A cloud changes its shape depending entirely on the atmospheric pressure, but regardless of its shape, it never stops being a cloud.
If we translate that bamboo mind to the listener's daily emotional life, imagine a wave of pure, white-hot anger hits you because a colleague threw you under the bus in a meeting.
A very relatable scenario.
Very relatable. If you take the wooden stake approach, you try to rigidly block the emotion. You sit at your desk screaming at yourself internally like, don't be angry, suppress it, don't show it. Doing that is like violently thrusting your hand into a small pond to try and stop the ripples.
Which is completely counterproductive. You are fighting the water with more force, which guarantees you just create a larger, more chaotic set of ripples.
Exactly the opposite of what you want. The bamboo approach means you acknowledge the physiological spike. Your heart rate is up, your face is hot, you feel the anger, you internally name it, I am feeling anger right now, and then you let the thought drift up and float away.
Right, you don't attach a narrative to it.
You don't build a revenge fantasy, you just let the emotional wave crest and break, bending with it until it passes.
And we have to recognize that this flexible, bamboo-like mind is put to its absolute ultimate test when we are dealing with other people. Developing mushin in isolation is one thing.
Sure, it's easy when you're alone in a room.
Exactly. But the vast majority of our daily anxiety and the place where our egos flare up the fastest is in our relationships with others.
Oh, totally. A huge trap we fall into with other people is what Masuno calls wearing colored glasses. These are our preconceived notions and our confirmation bias.
We all do it.
We do. Imagine you start a new job and someone warns you that a specific coworker is, really difficult to work with. You have just put on your colored glasses.
The bias is set.
Exactly. The very next day, that coworker sends you an email that is just slightly brief. Because you are wearing those glasses, you immediately interpret a neutral email as open hostility.
Then advises us to consciously identify when we are wearing those glasses and take them off so we can actively look for the Buddha nature in everyone.
The Buddha nature.
Yes. If you choose to believe that everyone, even the blunt coworker, has a core capacity for kindness, you will actually start seeing evidence of it. And there is a highly counterintuitive application of this for workplace success, specifically regarding how we handle our egos, the practice of yielding.
Yielding. In a modern corporate environment, yielding sounds like a fantastic way to let people walk all over you.
It certainly seems that way, but it is actually the power of voluntarily saying, after you.
Really?
Yeah, we are conditioned to think we must aggressively assert ourselves, always be the first to speak in a meeting, always take credit, always push to the front. But taking the second position is actually a stance of immense, quiet strength.
Because it lowers the temperature in the room.
Think about the psychological mechanism at play in a cutthroat office. Everyone has their threat sensors dialed to maximum. When you voluntarily yield, you trigger a pattern interrupt. You instantly disarm their threat response.
That makes a lot of sense.
In Buddhism, there is a concept called innen, which refers to the karmic connections and reciprocal bonds we form. By yielding, by making someone else feel safe and valued, you create a powerful, positive spiral of innen. People lower their defenses and they organically want to collaborate with you and help you succeed.
Wow, saying after you works wonders in the boardroom to disarm colleagues. But I think the place where we arguably struggle with yielding the most is actually in our own homes with our romantic partners.
Absolutely.
That's where we expect things to be easiest, but it's often where our expectations create the most friction.
This is where Masuno introduces one of the most profound concepts in the text, hara hachi bunmi. It literally translates to belly 8 parts full.
Belly 8 parts full.
Right. Historically, this is a Confucian dietary teaching the idea that you should stop eating when you feel 80% full to maintain health. But Masuno applies this ancient dietary rule directly to romantic love.
And it is an absolute game changer. When we fall in love, the cultural narrative tells us we are supposed to find our other half and understand them 100%.
The soulmate myth.
Yes, we want to know every thought they have, every deeply held motivation, every micro-habit. But demanding 100% comprehension of another human being is a recipe for disaster, because at the end of the day, you are two entirely different organisms with different lived experiences.
You can't possibly know everything. The application of the rule is to be entirely satisfied with understanding just 80% of your partner.
Which leaves a 20% buffer of uncharted territory. If you accept that you will only ever understand 80% of why they do what they do, it saves you from so much unnecessary conflict.
Exactly.
When you inevitably realize you have totally different values on how to load a dishwasher or how to spend a Sunday afternoon, you don't panic. You just chalk it up to that 20% mystery. You don't have to fix it or force them to conform to your 100% ideal.
That 20% buffer is essentially the space where grace lives in a relationship. And speaking of extending grace, Masuno offers a fascinating reframe on a dynamic that creates friction for almost every couple: the act of complaining.
No, nobody likes a complainer.
Right. We typically dread it when our spouse walks through the door and immediately unloads a 20-minute rant about their boss or their commute. Our instinct is to view it as toxic negativity. But Masuno suggests we view this not as an annoyance, but as a profound display of trust.
Because they're dropping the professional mask they had to wear all day?
Exactly. They are bringing their truest, most unguarded self to you. Masuno compares the home in this moment to the roji.
The roji.
The roji is the open, transitional garden path that surrounds a traditional Zen tea house. In feudal Japan, it was a highly stratified society. But it didn't matter if you were a high-ranking samurai warlord or a lowly merchant.
Everyone was equal in the tea house.
Exactly. Before you walked through the roji to enter the tea house, you had to physically leave your swords outside. You had to cast off your armor and your societal rank to reveal your bare, unprotected human nature.
That's a beautiful image.
When your partner is complaining to you about their day, your living room is functioning as the roji. They are taking off their armor and handing you their frustrations because you are the one person they feel completely safe doing that with.
If you shift your perspective to see your partner's complaining not as a burden, but as them leaving their swords at the door because they trust you implicitly. I mean, that completely changes the emotional texture of an evening.
It really does. It transforms annoyance into connection.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener, as we pull these threads together? The journey to escaping information overload and ambient anxiety looks like this. First, stop wrestling with the ghosts in the field. Recognize that your binaries and comparisons are just dried grass.
Just dried grass.
Second, stop mourning the cherry blossoms of the past and focus on being the most useful chipped bowl you can be today. Third, when the storm actually hits, don't be a rigid wooden stake. Feel the emotion and bend like bamboo.
Bend, don't break.
Exactly. And finally, take off your colored glasses, strategically yield to build trust, and always leave 20% of your partner as a beautiful mystery.
It is a profound shift from seeking external control to mastering internal response. And as we close, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought regarding the ultimate relinquishment of anxiety.
Okay, lay it on us.
It involves facing the one absolute certainty we all share our own end. In the Zen tradition, when a monk was nearing death, they would often write a yuige. Yes, this was a death poem, or final words written in verse, designed to perfectly and economically capture their ultimate state of mind. In a modern context, we might think of it like choosing a kanji of the year, selecting a single character or word to represent your entire mental landscape.
Oh, wow.
I challenge you to ponder this when you finish this deep dive. If you had to distill your current state of mind into a single word or very short phrase to leave behind for your loved ones right now, what would it be?
Man, that is a heavy, beautiful, and deeply clarifying question to walk away with. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. The next time you're out in the dark and you see a monster waving at you, take a breath, step closer, and remember it's probably just the grass.